Okay, so I have this ready to mark. I've got my ruler at the 1 inch mark, and I'm just doing a nice light purple line here. I think this actually worked better than the other. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to baste this and then look at the shearing. So I'm going to take another couple pins to keep some. On the other side, if we look at this, it's got folded fabric. So I'm kind of like easing this all in together. All right, so there we go. And I made sure that I reattached my neckline stay, this extra little piece of fabric here. I want to make sure that is in here right. All right, let's take this over to the sewing machine. Lots of noises in the background. Yeah, you guys aren't even looking at the sewing machine. Okay. I did sew over 2 pins. Shh, don't tell anyone. Oops, just sewed over another one. Okay. All right, let's take these pins out of here and see what we have. Oh, it'd be nice to actually snip the. Let's snip the threads before we get to there. I will end up cutting this off, but not yet. I want to make sure that we've got it. Ah, much nicer seam. Again, my stitches were a little bit closer than theirs. This manufacturing had some wide stitches so they can get it out quickly. Mine are a little bit tighter. Should last longer. So now we're gonna flip it over, and look at that. That looks nice. Okay, cool. Next, we need to cut this shorter so it eliminates some bulk. For that, I use my rotary cutter. Make sure everything else is out of the way. You only want to cut what you want to cut, nothing else. This particular rotary cutter has a guard on it. I have the guard on it every moment that I'm not using it because this sucker is sharp. So I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch seam allowance on this by eyeballs. Using my eyeballs. Don't get your fingers in the way. Alright, so there's my 1/2 inch seam allowance. Yep, done. So put the guard back up, put it down. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the lining fabric. Again, making sure that everything else is tucked away and out of the way. Okay. Okay. There's our 1/2 inch seam allowance. Put the guard back on the rotary cutter. Now I get to reassemble it. So now the shoulder seams are up. Now we get to kind of turn it and see what it would look like. We're going to be sewing this closed next. But before we do, we're going to make sure that all of these little threads are picked out of here. Because otherwise, when we go to sew this, let me take off my glasses so I can see better. This is already picked out, so I'm going to loosen it. Okay, that's all gone. One more. This is where that was backstitch. Remember I was picking apart that backstitch one? This. And look at that. The knit fabric is cut there a little bit. That's all right. Okay. But Christine, how are we gonna fix that nick in that knit fabric? And guys, that did happen from the needle that was in there. So when we picked it apart, it just was open. All right. The way we're gonna fix that is fold it over just a little teeny bit more. So we're going to sew these guys together. I am going to, instead of, so that when this was originally done, all of this was folded one way and this was folded the other. I am going to open these seams up. I think it'll make for less bulk. And let me actually do. Okay. Okay. So first pass is going to be sewing them together, and then we're going to fold this over and then top stitch, so that we have the outer edge showing along the neckline instead of the lining. The reason why you top stitch is so that your lining is actually on the inside and your outer fabric actually comes up and over the edge just a little bit. So, all right, I've got these seams open, and this is called finger pressing, guys. I'm pressing with my fingers. And I'm going to bring this up just slightly so that we are covering that other non-conformity. Okay. So it's really important to get this turned out so that we're not struggling. So I'm going to pull this out just a little bit more. Now, I'm going to pin this guy. And then I'm going to pin this guy. Okay. I definitely have less bulk in this seam than I did when I ripped it apart. So I'm hoping that is, and I'm going to mark where the seam starts on this side because I can't really tell. So it's right here. So I'm going to make sure that I get before where this pin is. Backstitch. And then I'm going to go to where it is unstitched on this side. I'm actually going to turn a little bit more fabric. All right, so it looks like we're done right about there. But if we look to this side, yep, we can definitely tell the top stitching is right here, and then right here is where we're done. So I'm going to come back, put a pin on this side. Ouch. All right, now let's stitch from here to here, and that will stitch our neckline back together. Glasses on. Woo! There. Get all the flurbies out. Push the bobbin thread and the top thread to the back. Nice picture of my wrist. I'm going to split this apart as much as possible here. And then I am shoving this under before that pin. And then I'm going to, we're using this 1/2 inch seam allowance here. So, time to stitch these guys together. There. Stay. There we go. Don't stitch over pins, guys. Okay, I stitched over it twice. That's as much fade as I want to test. Okay. Now when I'm getting to this seam here, I want to make sure that this guy stays in that direction. So I'm kind of like forcing this a bit. Okay, now it's starting to buckle. So I'm going to pull my presser foot up and it just popped right into place. It was awesome. So this, you can see it better from this side. Let me zoom in a little bit. So as I was pushing this through, this edge was kind of catching. Let me grab a pin and I'll show you. This pin, or this seam allowance was catching and pulling up like that. All I had to do to get it to stop, and notice the needle is right on the edge of that seam allowance. It's right there. All I had to do was lift up on the presser foot. Now it's not going to go anywhere because the needle's there. It's holding the fabric in place. It's just the needle is kind of like acting like another pin. And when I lifted that up, the fabric that had folded over just flipped right back into place. And then we'll continue to stitch. Oh, see how it's kind of like folding in just a little bit? So I'm going to open this up a little bit, let it fold back in. And take this pin out. I couldn't see that, but I did. I took the pin out. Ah, why am I going slow, guys? Because I'm sewing over pins, and I shouldn't be sewing over pins. Don't sew over pins. Unless you like replacing your needle. Okay, here we go. Take this pin out. And then we'll 2 stitches and a back stitch. Okay, there we go. It is complete. Oh, let's see how we did. Now, first of all, let's look at the back here. Okay, see, we didn't do so good on the underside. Now, those feed dogs, that's those little guys down there, these little claw-looking things, they grab the fabric and pull it along. These got caught on the feed dogs. This is less of an issue because it's the liner fabric and it's kind of thin. This side sewed very well. This came across, and whenever it started to curl, I lifted up on the presser foot and it came across nicely. All right, you ready to turn the fabric and find out how we did? Let me clip these. Oh. What do we do here? We shall see. That probably is going to need ripped out. Anyway, let's flip it over and see how we did. Oh, nice, nice, nice. Okay, seams match. Let me get this guy out of there. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna need to go back and top stitch, but I think we are pretty good. In fact, I like, this is a lot less bulky than it was. So yeah, I think we're good. We're good. We need to, yeah, we need to rip this one a little bit, but it's okay, guys. It is okay. Let me grab my seam ripper and do that. Yeah, this got kind of wonky here in the beginning. Taking off my glasses again so I can see. Huh, you can't see. Here. Can you see? Focus. Focus. There. There's one. Yeah. Notice that I'm having trouble locating where the lining fabric threads start and the stitching threads start. So what I'm doing is I'm flipping it. Now I can tell exactly who is who. And I'm going to get this guy. I'm going to cut him and not anybody else. Ha! You're blurry. Sorry, guys. Okay. This one. Did I get it? Did I get all of it? Not quite. There. Yay, it's free. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go back and top stitch it. I am not going to go back and undo or redo this one because we're basically backstitched to here. And when I go ahead and do the top stitching, I'm going to stitch it exactly like right beside each other, and we're already stitched like right there. So it's stitched from here to here, like it's that little gap, and we're going to be covering that gap when we do the top stitching. So these two little guys need to go though. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right. Well, how do we do the top stitching? I'm so glad you asked. So top stitching is called top stitching because you're stitching on the top of the fabric and not on the underneath, like the inside where you see all the seam allowances. So I'm going to open this guy up, and then I'm going to top stitch. And when I do that, I'm going to make sure that all of my seam allowances are in this direction. So the seam allowances here are going to be underneath the lining. So I basically am saying, all right, well, all of my bulky stuff, so all of that seam allowance is on this side. And meanwhile, there's nothing on that side. And then when I fold the fabric with that top stitching, look what happens. Ta-da. So let's try her out. I think I may need to open this armhole more, yeah, which I don't want to do, but if I don't, then we'll just we're gonna have to stitch it closed anyway. It's okay. When I always do these gowns one arm at a time, and then that way I know, like, if I would pick apart both of these armholes and go, oh, okay, that's good. Now I'm going back and going, no, not so good. Because I need to do the top stitching here, and I need a little bit of extra room to do that. Oh goodness, look at all this fabric, or all this thread. There. Okay. There's that. We're gonna open up this one a little bit too. Okay. It is open. Yep, I think that's plenty of space to be able to go through and top stitch this. Meanwhile, I'm gonna make sure all of this goes to the lining side. So this is my top fabric and this is my lining fabric. All of these seam allowances are going this way. And then I'm going top stitch starting right here. Oh yeah, that's much better. This is much more open. Much, much easier. Okay. I'm going to start my top stitch right about here where all of these other threads are. And then I will end it. What am I catching my finger on here? I think that's a chiffon. Yeah, that is a piece of chiffon. See how similar that looks to a thread? This is a chiffon fiber. The reason I can tell is, do you see how it is kind of almost zigzagged? That's because it's woven. The chiffon is woven and each individual strand is woven many, many times. But it looks a lot like one of the strands. It's a little bit smaller, but it looks a lot like one of the threads. That's why I was having trouble picking some of those stitches out. All right, so top stitching, and we're going to top stitch to about here. And let's go to the sewing machine. This video is going to be a little bit longer, but oh my gosh, so much less bulk. So the first time, and you can almost see, where this top stitching was. Once I am done top stitching, by the way, I am going to iron this. because we want to iron this this flat. Actually, I'm going to throw a little bit of... Kiddos, don't try this at home. Don't iron your fingers, folks. I have lots of layers of fabric. I'm not getting burnt at all. Not that I haven't gotten burnt doing this, but yeah. By the way, this guy is wonderful. I love it. It's little, fits into lots of little small places, and heats up quick. So, steam fast if you want to sponsor Holy Frock Emergency Alterations. There we go. Got this little guy at Wally World. Okay. And actually, now that Joann's is closed, that's where I get all my thread. My local Walmart knows me, and they were like, hey, you're bringing another garment in. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I need to match some thread. There is another sewing machine store that's not too far from me, and they have some higher quality stuff, yeah, but most of their stuff is embroidery floss, or embroidery thread, which I don't do. So my daughter hand embroiders, but I can't remember my glasses on. I can't remember the name. D and I don't remember. It's a 3-letter acronym that for the embroidery floss that she uses. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that the underside of this is nice and open, and I'm going to take my sewing machine again, push those threads to the back, and then we are going to top stitch. I'm going to make sure that this is open and shove this under here like this, and then kind of fiddle my way to the point that I want to start top stitching, and then make sure that this guy is out over here so I'm not sewing the lining like I did before. Let me see if I can get you to focus. I think that's focused. All right. Now, I'm not going to be moving the dress very much because I don't want to accidentally sew onto... I don't want to accidentally sew onto the outer part of the fabric. So I am top stitching straight through the neck hole. I'm gonna hand put my needle into the location I want, just to make sure that it goes into, whoops, sorry guys, goes into where I want it. And I'm gonna sew very, very slowly. Take my time. I'm gonna take my time. And people wonder why I charge what I charge to do this. 2, back 2. Okay, we got the back stitching done. So we are going to notice I'm trying to stay very, very close to, there we go. Okay, now I'm going to stop and check because I've got this fabric kind of folding in. I want to make sure that this is not underneath my needle. So I'm kind of like gonna open this up. What do we got there? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna peek back on what I have here. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, I don't know whether you guys can see that or not. Yeah, there we go. And we are approaching okay. Almost. Almost. We're almost to the other pin. Don't sew over the pin. Oh. I said to the pin. Let's take that pin out. Okay. And now we're going to sew one more stitch or two. And then sew back 2 stitches. And we are done with the top stitching. Let's go ahead and pull this up. Now we're going to gingerly take this out. Now, like before when we did the shoulder seam and kind of sewed together the 2 fabrics, we're going to look and see what we got. And guys, did you see I did what I did there? Because I've got a lot of bulk here, I have my presser foot. You can, that's down. And that holds the fabric down and lets the sewing machine sew. And then you pull it up, which brings the presser foot up. So this presser foot's up, but I got a lot of bulk here. So I can take this presser foot and push up higher on it, and it moves it up higher. And now I can take this out with ease. I don't have to worry about snagging the chiffon on anything. Okay, let's see what we got. Nice top stitching. Worked out nice. Worked out nice on the top. That's the easy part. The top stitching is the easy part. Now let's see what the underneath looks like. So remember, the idea was to have all of the seam allowances on this side so that when we folded it over, it had the outside fabric kind of fold over like that. So look at that. Okay, so far so good. Let's look at the one end. I gotta cut this thread anyway. Yeah, looks good. So far, this end looks good. And let's see this end. Well, by Jove, this end looks fantastic too. So we are ready to shut this guy up. All right. So I did notice, I'm gonna see what this is. Okay.